Ooh. All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome to our chat today. I am the Doula Darcy, a doula business coach and postpartum doula for the past 12 years. And I am thrilled to be inviting my friend Jayne Havens, who is well, I'll let her tell her about herself, but we are going to be talking all about adding sleep consulting to your doula business, which I have just become super passionate about, I think, just for so many reasons that we'll get into. I think it's a great way to not only serve more families, but serve more families well. The more time that goes by, sleep is just becoming such a passion of mine. So I think if as doulas, we can help our families get more sleep, that's just fantastic. So we will dive into all of that, but as we go, please share your questions in the comments and we will get to them as we go. We've got lots to cover, so without further ado, so Jayne, welcome. Tell us a little bit about your story.
Sure. So first of all, thank you for having me. I'm excited to chat with you today. My name is Jayne Havens. I am a certified sleep consultant. I specialize in both infant and toddler sleep. I support parents through the process of establishing healthy and independent sleep hygiene for their children. In addition to supporting families one-on-one, I also train, mentor, and certify others, God bless you, to become certified sleep consultants through my program called Center for Pediatric Sleep Management. Inside of this program, it's a comprehensive sleep consultant certification program where not only do you learn, bless you again, not only do you learn all the sleep training techniques and how to establish that healthy and independent sleep hygiene for children, but we're also placing a really heavy emphasis on business building and entrepreneurship, as I know that most of the women that come into my program have either none or some very little experience with growing their own small business. I know I'm talking to a bunch of doulas tonight, so I guess that's a little bit different with this crowd, but a lot of the people that come into my program have never started their own business before. So we teach you how to find clients, we teach sales, marketing, business growth strategy, and mindset work, which I happen to think is the most important piece. And we do it all in a really friendly, lively, supportive, collaborative community.
And I have heard nothing but rave reviews about it. I've had so many of my doula coaching clients that have gone through your program, and they all are just blown away by how comprehensive it is and how much they learn. So I love recommending it. So, but let's start back at the beginning with what exactly does a sleep consultant do? What does that mean?
Sure. So I always say that sleep consultants support parents through the process of establishing healthy and independent sleep hygiene for infants and toddlers. That can look different for different families, but typically, at least those who go through my program, what they want to learn is how to teach babies and toddlers to sleep independently. So how to fall asleep independently, how to fall back to sleep independently. If you think about a little 4-month-old baby who's used to being nursed to sleep, and then they pop awake every 45 minutes because they're used to being nursed back to sleep, we would support that family through the process of teaching the baby how to fall asleep in a new way. So without the nursing, that doesn't mean that the baby can't eat overnight. If the 4-month-old baby is still hungry overnight, of course, they're still fed, but we would teach them how to fall asleep without the nursing. And maybe that starts by just rocking them to sleep, or maybe it starts with putting them down in their crib and giving them, you know, a little chest shimmy so that they can get accustomed to falling asleep in a new way. Or with some families, they like to just put their baby down and watch, observe, listen, and, you know, check and provide comfort as needed. There are lots of different ways to go about it. Just sort of running you through a few of the different options, but the end goal is for these babies and toddlers to be able to fall asleep confidently, peacefully, independently, because when children can fall asleep independently, they can also fall back to sleep independently. And this leads to longer stretches overnight. It leads to better naps and a happier, more well-rested child. So, we're working on teaching independent sleep. We're also helping parents to manage the daytime. So a lot of parents don't have their babies or toddlers on age appropriate schedules. They're just sort of like conking out whenever they're absolutely exhausted, rather than setting up a schedule that's age appropriate and really manageable for the child. And when babies know, like, when it's time to nap and when it's time to eat, and then when it's time to play, and then when it's time to nap, that when they know what's coming, they really thrive, and they have a much better day, and everybody's happier.
Right. And that is something I get asked so often as a postpartum doula, is like, what is the schedule that my child should be on? And without getting into like the fact that a 6-week-old baby is not going to be on a schedule.
Sure.
We are not teaching that. I don't want to say that you are. But you learn the patterns that even 2-week-old babies can fall into, and the science behind it. So we can get into that a little bit more, but at first I want to just go over in your certification program, what age range does your course cover? It's not just...
So we say 0 to 4 years, or like newborn to 4 years of age, bless you. But really then, like, we also sometimes work with 5-year-olds, or like we sometimes work with 6-year-olds. I'm actually working with a 6-year-old right now. I always say that, like, there's nothing that you could do with a 4-year-old that you can't do with like a 5, 6, or 7-year-old, right? So it's a gray area as far as like where we cut it off. And I leave that up to individual consultants to decide how comfortable they are supporting older children. Mm-hmm. But generally it's like infants, toddlers, preschoolers is who we're largely supporting.
Right. And this is a huge reason that I think this is such a great fit for doulas. And I just want to throw this in there here right now, because I always joke about how, like, I have my favorite clients and I work with them for 3 months, and then they love me, I love them, and I have to sit around for 2 years and wait for them to have another baby before they can hire me again. But if I can offer them, one-off sleep consult sessions at the 4-month sleep regression, at the 6-month sleep regression, at, as they transition to preschool or whatever, toddler bed, it's a way to continue to serve them and can keep checking in with them, stay on top of mind awareness with them, so that when they do have another baby, and also as a doula, to earn income in between. So I just love that. And you've already built that trust with a family. So doulas, let me know in the comments, aren't you their first call when the baby won't sleep? The baby's sleeping well, and then all of a sudden stops sleeping. They're going through some kind of regression, or aren't we the first call because the parents really trust us? So wouldn't it be great to be able to offer them really great advice?
I'm always explaining to the ladies, especially the postpartum professionals, doulas and newborn care specialists who take my program, that, when the way that you grow your sleep consulting business as a doula is like, you're in their home, you're providing this one-on-one support, you are helping them through the most crucial early weeks. And then, let's say you move on to the next family, but the first family reaches back out again because they're struggling. And maybe you can't help them in person again because you've moved on to another family, but now you can support them virtually through sleep consulting. Or maybe that first family doesn't need your help ever again, but they refer you to a friend of theirs that's living across the country who has a 9-month-old that is up every hour. And they say, oh, my postpartum doula also happens to be a certified sleep consultant. She supports families virtually, give her a call. And that's how your sleep consulting business grows as you're a postpartum doula. I love what you were saying about how you can support families again and again. I'm actually working with 2 families right now where this is the 3rd child that I've supported. Like I've supported every single child in their family, and now they're both on their third child. And both of them hired me. When they hired me for the third time, they both said, like, I can't believe I'm calling you again, because like I know how to do this, but I just really benefit from your support. And I really like to have that accountability and that hand holding. And I just love to be able to like text you questions, and like it's my pleasure, because they already know what to do. They're already like, they're so easy because they know exactly what to do. They just want to be able to check in with me every day. And, you know, it's my pleasure to do that for them. I love it.
Oh yeah. And I mean, how awesome is that? I mean,
yeah.
I always joke, the big joke in the doula world is like, oh, I wish there was like a preschool doula that could like support me as I, go through the emotions of dropping my baby off at preschool. Oh, and I just dropped my baby off at college. And how many times did I say, like, I wish there was a college doula?
Totally.
Like that's what parents are craving, is just a little support as you go through these transitions, because it makes it better. So I love that you are saying that. So I lost my train of thought of what my next question was. Oh, I know what I was going to say. So you were mentioning how, once you help someone with their sleep issues, they start to say, oh, my postpartum doula is a sleep consultant too. Like, if you can help somebody get a little more sleep, let me just tell you, they wake up and they want to shout it from the rooftops. They're so happy that they've slept that they become your biggest marketing vehicle. They're posting on Facebook like, I got 8 hours of sleep last night, or whatever.
Yeah.
They're
the beautiful thing about the work that we do as sleep consultants is like, we're getting our clients results. It's very concrete. In a lot of other coaching, if you think about, they're like business coaches or like happiness coaches or account, like with sleep, like there is an end result, and that is like your child can largely sleep through the night, right? In an age appropriate way. I mean, if we're talking about a teeny tiny baby, then like expectations are managed. But like with older children, like I'm working with a 13-month-old right now, like the expectation is that this child's going to be sleeping through the night by the end of our 2 weeks together. And he is going to be, like, no reason for him not to be. So like, it's kind of an easy win. Like, I love it, like there's really no reason for why this little 13-month-old can't sleep, right? So like, I get to be the one to make that happen for them. And like it's going to be life-changing for their entire family.
And then, but also at the end of the day, you're actually kind of like a doula. You're really helping the parents do it.
Sure. I'm not there. Yeah. Right. I do all of my work remotely. So I'm not physically there doing the work. They are. I'm just supporting them and coaching them and providing them with advice and support along the way. And they're doing all the good work.
You are empowering the parents to help their children sleep better.
Yeah.
Which is why I really love your, not only your certification, but your, just philosophy about the whole thing. And then back to, a teeny tiny baby, that the expectation, like, you are not teaching that you're going to get a 4-week-old baby sleeping through the night. Some comments just came in about breastfeeding, and you teach.
Yeah, let's talk about breastfeeding. Let's just talk about breastfeeding, okay? Because
and the fact that you teach about age-appropriate sleep and age-appropriate expectations. You're not coming in and sleep training everyone to sleep 12 hours a night. So again, I love, because you train your sleep consultants to meet parents where they're at, meet babies where they're at.
Totally.
And
so we practice, I call it a client-led approach. So we are supporting parents in a way that aligns with their parenting style and that feels safe and comfortable for them. We're not like barging in, bombarding with our own agenda. I work with a lot of breastfeeding parents. Actually, most of my clients who have infants are nursing, and some of them wish to night wean during the process of establishing healthy and independent sleep hygiene. And if the babies are old enough and are gaining well enough and they're eating well, then like That's totally fine. And a lot of them have no interest in night weaning. They want to keep those night feeds. They enjoy them. They believe their baby needs them. Sometimes their babies do believe them, need them. Sometimes they don't. But either way, if parents want to continue to feed throughout the night, that's totally fine. I'm actually working with a little 3.5-month-old baby right now. He's tiny, like he's not ready to sleep through the night without being fed. He weighs like 10 pounds. He needs a feed in the middle of the night, but he is now falling asleep. He's still swaddled because he has a very strong Moro reflex and he's not rolling. So it's okay for him to be swaddled. And we are putting him down after a bedtime routine of a story, a song, a kiss goodnight. We put him down swaddled in his crib and he himself to sleep. And he does it totally on his own. And then he wakes up at some point in the middle of the night and he cries pretty loudly because he's hungry. And we give him just a few minutes just to listen. We like stop, we pause, we go to the bathroom, we get a drink of water. We just like get our wits about ourselves and we listen. And if he is in fact really upset, we go in, we feed him, put him back down awake, and then he himself back to sleep and he sleeps until the morning, and like good for him, right? And so we're not night weaning prematurely. We're not denying food to any babies. That being said, there are some babies out there who do not need to be eating in the middle of the night as many times as they are. This little 13-month-old that I was telling you about earlier was eating several times in the middle of the night before we started working together. I don't think he was eating for nutrition. I think he was just nursing for comfort and for support to get back to sleep. That was no longer sustainable for mom. It was not necessary for baby. So we changed that. And actually he night weaned on his own because once we taught him how to fall asleep without being nursed to sleep, he actually stopped waking up screaming to be nursed because he had the skill now to do it on his own. So he wasn't crying out for help, right? Yeah. So he wasn't necessarily crying out for food. He was crying out for help to get back to sleep. And now he knows how to do it. So he's, you know, he still wakes up in the middle of the night. He might like fuss or give a yelp, but then he puts himself back to sleep.
Amazing. So that's what I just love the most, that you are not, people are commenting like, oh, I know a sleep consultant that pushes, you know, night weaning. You're not doing that, the big exhales. So you are not doing that at all, which is great. But like you said, I mean, I get calls all the time from the moms that are like, okay, I am ready. Like baby's 15 months or 12,
yeah. So let's talk about that. Let's talk about that. Okay. Cause I think that's really important.
A lot of times parents will be like, okay, my baby's getting 6 bottles a night. I know that is too much, but I don't know how to stop it.
Yeah.
Like that's another common call.
Yeah. So when it comes to nursing, people have very, very strong opinions about like when babies should be weaned, when babies should stop being fed in the middle of the night, you know, especially doulas, postpartum professionals have very strong opinions about this. And the way I feel about this is I want to do what the parents want to do. So if the parents don't want to feed the baby in the middle of the night, that doesn't mean the baby is not going to starve. That means that they need to get nutrition during the day. And if breastfeeding is not going to be sustainable because their supply is going to drop because they're not breastfeeding overnight, that's a valid choice for a mom. If she no longer wants to breastfeed, then like her supply may drop and then she may have to supplement. And that is a valid choice, right? So not every parent's priority is to exclusively nurse. Some parents are totally fine to combination feed. Some parents are totally fine to exclusively formula feed. And, you know, with regard to sleep, we're just teaching a baby how to fall asleep and back to sleep independently. And if the baby doesn't need to be fed anymore in the middle of the night, and that's how the parents want to handle it, then like, it's okay if that compromises the exclusive breastfeeding relationship, if that's what the parents want, right? Like not every parent's goal is to exclusively nurse for a year or more. Some parents are, and again, we meet them where they are and we help them to meet their goals as long as it's age appropriate for the baby.
Yeah. And I would say a lot of times, like, I bet it doesn't even interrupt breastfeeding. I mean, you know, babies get to a certain age, they're supposed to sleep 10 hours without nursing and
yeah.
without
The funny thing about babies and the way they eat is like babies eat what they're going to eat in a 24-hour period.
Right.
So babies who are eating in the middle of the night are actually eating less during the day.
Right.
It's sort of like a vicious cycle. So, you know, when you reduce the amount a baby eats overnight, their appetite increases during the day, which ultimately is what you want long term. Again, we're not talking about like a little 8-week-old baby. We're talking about a 6-month-old baby or a 9-month-old baby. And I see this a lot with bottle fed babies too. Like I work with 9-month-old babies that are still drinking 3 bottles in the middle of the night. And then, you know, mom will say, he won't eat during the day. Well, like, I wonder why, right? So, you know, we work to sometimes like shift those calories from overnight to daytime. And there are a lot of ways to go about that, but like the baby's always getting fed. No babies are hungry on our watch.
I love that. And one more thing about this, you do have some IBCLCs who've gone through your training. They're in your Facebook group. So it's like IBCLC approved.
We actually have 2 pediatricians that have gone through the course. We have, I think 3 IBCLCs, 2 that are pretty active in our community, and 1 more, I think, who's a little bit less active. Maybe she hasn't finished the course yet. We have several nurses, nurse practitioners, physician assistants. So we have a very educated medical and support community that they know their stuff, and they're all good with the advice that we're putting out there.
That's fantastic. So let's talk a little bit about like how you run your sleep consulting business, because you were saying we're up in the middle of the night, we're listening to the baby cry. You are not up.
I'm not.
Actually,
no.
And you're actually not in their home. So tell us how you run this virtually, because this is another reason I think this is so great for doulas.
Yeah. So all of my work happens during the daytime. This is actually a late night for me. Like after this, I'm getting into bed and I'm going to sleep. The way, and the beautiful thing about sleep consulting is you really can do it in a way that works for you. So if the way I run my business doesn't feel like something you'd ever want to do, that's okay. Like you get to run your business, just like you run your doula business the way that works for you, you get to run your sleep consulting business the way that works for you. For me, I do a 2-week consultation. That starts with a written sleep plan that is based on both a phone conversation and a questionnaire that my clients fill out. The written sleep plan is really, really thorough. It's not super long. It's like maybe 3 or 4 pages, but it's really thorough, really well communicated. When they get that sleep plan, they're invited to a phone call. I ask them to come to that phone call with a really detailed list of questions. So I answer all of their questions on that. It's about a 30-minute phone call. And from that point, they get text message support from me for 2 weeks. And then we do a wrap-up phone call at the end of our time together. I find that when I'm really clear in my sleep plan and on that first 30-minute phone call, the text message support that I need to provide on a day-to-day basis is actually pretty limited. Every now and then I'm working with a family that has a really sort of like highly anxious parent who's like really in touch, but most of my clients are, you know, they're prepared after the plan and the phone call, and they check in a couple of times. I make sure to check in every morning or after bedtime, but I leave it up to my clients to sort of reach out to me. And I always tell them, like, this is what I do full time. So like, I do try to respond in real time as much as possible. That being said, I have nights like tonight where I'm on a Zoom. Actually, I do have a client I'm working with right now who is highly anxious. It's actually that little 13-month-old I was telling you guys about. And tonight is the first night that she's going to be working on bedtime without her husband home. So I reached out to a CPSM grad and asked her if she would support my client while I was on this Zoom with you guys. So, you know, having a network of people that can pitch in and help you when necessary, I think is really helpful. But largely I'm around for my clients. And if I'm not, I let them know in advance. And, you know, if I'm driving, if I'm on a Zoom, if I'm at my twice-a-week tennis lesson, you know, I don't respond right away and I get back to them as soon as I can. And it's all about managing expectations and sort of setting them up for success on the front end so that they're not texting you in a panic, needing, you know, instant advice.
So I love that for doulas, because this is great to kind of fit in between your if you're at births or if you're with postpartum clients, you can really set this up so that and it's a great way to fill in. We always have gaps in our schedule. So this is a great way to kind of fill in the gaps and continue to earn income.
Yeah. A few things that I've noticed, my postpartum doulas, like how they're benefiting from adding sleep consulting to their business, to their doula business. One, as you said, filling in the gaps, I think is really, it takes the weight off your shoulders. I think when it comes to doula work, it sort of feels like feast or famine sometimes, where like, you know, you have this big contract and then it ends and then you're like, oh my gosh, where am I going to get my next paycheck? Right. And if you're sort of sprinkling in virtual sleep consulting jobs while you're looking for your next doula contract, I think it takes the pressure off. It also allows you to be a little bit more selective with the next family that you decide to work with. You know, if you're going on an interview and you meet them, maybe you go to their house, you don't get a great vibe, you're not feeling it, but you're scared to say no because you don't know where your next job is going to come from. You know, those who are in my program who are doing virtual sleep consulting, they tell me all the time that like they've gotten to be so much more selective and choosy with their in-person jobs because they just feel less stressed because they have income coming in from elsewhere. Another way that it's benefited them is one of the first things I tell them to do once they're certified, I tell them to raise their hourly rates because they are more highly qualified than their competitors. You know, my postpartum doulas who are graduates of my program, they're increasing their rates by $3, $5, $8 an hour. One of my grads messaged me. She literally made a complete return on investment from my course with one like doula contract by raising her rates. Like she didn't do anything different other than like she showed up with more confidence, her certification paperwork, and got a higher paying job. And so she actually hadn't even started supporting families through sleep yet, but like made all her money back, which that was the best story. I love that.
That is awesome. And such a good point that this can, you know, adding this certification on can really set you apart from other doulas in your area and might be the thing. And I mean, this is the thing. Everybody knows when they have a baby that, because everybody tells them, oh, sleep now because you're going to have a baby. Like, so it's not like so many other things where we go in blind to parenthood. Everybody knows they're not going to sleep. So if they can choose a doula that's like sleep certified, it's a no-brainer. They're going to choose you.
Yeah.
So I love that. And then one more thing is that you just described beautifully how to do this virtually. This doesn't mean that like if you're already doing overnight care as a doula or an NCS that you could bake sleep consulting into your services.
Yeah, some of my CPSM grads who are postpartum professionals are actually doing a little bit of like a hybrid model, which I think is really interesting. And the one beautiful thing about our community is that it is so collaborative that like we're all learning from one another, right? So I don't provide in-home support, but I have women inside of my program that do. And one of them actually did a recorded training on like how to do in-home sleep training consultations so that she could teach the rest of us how to do that. So that's now included in my program. But with like a hybrid support model, what some of the doulas are doing is they're doing like 2 or 3 nights of support in home for like the first couple of nights to get bedtime established. And then they're pivoting to like 2 weeks of virtual or like 10 days of virtual. And it's a really great model because they can charge like pretty much what they would charge to be there for like a week or 2. And they're only there for 2 or 3 days. And then the rest they're just doing from their cell phone. I think it's really brilliant.
That is, and I'm sure families love that. So that is great. So, okay. So back to let's just talk just sleep consulting. What do you charge for those services? And then how many clients can you support in a month?
Okay. So I am charging $750 for that 2-week consultation. Again, it's a written sleep plan. It's 2 30-minute phone calls and then text message support for 2 weeks, $750. And I would say that that really takes up about, like, my sleep plan takes me 20 or 30 minutes to write. I've written so many of them that like I can just sort of bang them out. The two 30-minute phone calls. So it's like an hour and a half to 2 hours worth of work plus text message support. And I make $750. I feel like that's a pretty good return for me. I, in sort of like my heyday of supporting families before I started really focusing on supporting my students inside of the program, I was supporting 20, 25 families a month. Now it's more like 15, I would say. I'm supporting 7 families right now. So it really fluctuates, but this is the type of thing where like you could very easily have a 6-figure business doing sleep consulting, or you also could just have a little bit of a side hustle and dabble in it. It really is sort of like whatever you want to make it to be.
I just want to make it clear. I mean, if you're a birth doula, like you can take 2 clients a month or 3. Any more than that, you're
toast.
You're exhausted. Yeah.
Yeah.
You're not. Just the model is a little different. So I wanted to make that clear. So back to one other thing I want to point out about your training program is that, you know, it's a self-paced online course, but you have this amazing Facebook community that you are super active in. This is not like a lot of online courses or certifications that you take that it's just the videos. Like you're in there answering everybody's questions every day, helping them as they start to work with clients, right? So tell us a little about your...
This is really like the whole reason for why I created Center for Pediatric Sleep Management. I went through a sleep consultant certification program online, and while the curriculum was fine, it was solid, I felt like there was no support. There was no community. There actually was a community, but it wasn't a community. And I really saw that women inside of that program were craving a higher level of support, both from leadership and from one another. And that just like wasn't happening. And so I was like, wait a second, I can do this. Like I can create this community and create this high level of support. It's actually what I love to do. I love to support my clients. I love to support my students and graduates. It's really just sort of in my nature. We have about 420 people inside of Center for Pediatric Sleep Management. It's an incredibly active community. I would say every single day, 8 to 10 posts or questions about, it could be anything about sleep. It could be about a case. It could be about where did you get your business cards? It could be, you know, has anybody taken a course on SEO recently? It could be, you know, I'm struggling with this family. Mom seems to be struggling with some postpartum anxiety. It literally could be anything. And I would say that I answer all of the questions inside of the group, unless it's not my area of expertise. For example, if it's a question that pertains to breastfeeding, I'll tag one of the IBCLCs. If it's a medical question, I'll tag a pediatrician. You know, if it's a question that's sort of beyond my scope, even if we have questions about multiples, I have 2, maybe 3. I know I have 2. I might have 3 ladies in the program that have 10 kids. Okay, so like we have lots of sort of like interesting people inside of our community that are better suited to answer certain questions than I am. And the beautiful thing is that we really all have worked together to make sure that the community remains a community. It's not just a Facebook group where people just are in there and nothing is happening. It's a very bustling community, and it's collaborative and supportive, and like you get what you need out of that group.
I love that. I've like I said, I've just heard such great things. So one other thing I want to cover is that your training doesn't preach a certain kind of sleep training. Like, and this is why I like this, sure. Because if you have a client that's like, we've heard about the Ferber method, or we've heard about this method, like if you've taken your certification, you're going to know all the ones that everybody's talking about.
All of it. So I'm a firm believer that like none of this is about you or me. right? This is about our clients. And just because you're not comfortable with the extinction method, that doesn't mean that someone might not want to handle it that way. Like, people have their reasons for why they want to handle certain situations in a certain way. And so I think that it's really important to be well versed on all sleep training techniques. Whether or not you would implement them in your own home is sort of irrelevant. And frankly, it doesn't mean that you need to coach your clients through them, right? Like, just because you learn extinction in my course doesn't mean that you need to coach clients through extinction. You can not even present it. And if they suggest that they want to implement it and you don't want to coach them through it, then you can refer out, right? That's the beauty of consulting. But I actually think that it's really important to have an open mind and have a really comprehensive education on all the different options for how to teach children to fall asleep. The interesting thing about the more traditional sleep training techniques is that they get a really bad rap. But when you actually learn how to implement them effectively and properly, the crying is like literally nil, okay? Compared to like some of the really parent present gradual techniques. And that doesn't mean that it's the right fit for every family. It doesn't mean that I'm going to push it on anybody. It just means that it's not as intense or traumatizing or all the T words. What are the other T words? Torture, traumatizing, right? It's literally none of that. But that's okay if like you're personally against it and you don't want to do that. I prefer to show up to my clients with a completely open mind, completely unbiased. My only hard line is safe sleep. I follow American Academy of Pediatrics safe sleep guidelines. So, and again, this doesn't mean that parents who choose to bed share or practice sort of different sleep styles that I would consider unsafe, that doesn't mean that those families don't deserve support. They do. It's just not, it's not my thing. Like, I'm not the right person to support them. I have people that I refer out to if they want to, improve sleep but continue to bed share. That's not what we're teaching inside of CPSM. We're teaching safe, per AAP guidelines, independent sleep. That's really my only hard line. As far as different sleep training techniques are concerned, we teach very, very parent present approaches. As I described before, like a baby who's used to being nursed to sleep, sometimes we just start with like rocking them to sleep. And then we take them from nursing to sleep to rocking to sleep to just holding them to sleep. And then we put them down in their crib and we give them a little this, right? So like, we teach very, very gradual parent present approaches. We also teach the traditional stuff. And I love to enroll people into my program who are willing to show up with no judgment and an open mind.
I love that. And I just love that you teach everything, which
we also teach toddler and preschooler appropriate strategies, which are completely different. It looks completely different to teach a 2 or a 3-year-old how to fall asleep independently than it does like a 4-month-old, right? So completely different strategies that include a lot of communication, a lot of pre-work, a lot of role play. We're really like getting the kids involved in the process.
That is awesome. Looking at the questions. So, and you do cover how to support parents of multiples, right?
We do. We talk about multiples. We talk about children with special needs. We talk about how to support parents that are struggling with perinatal mood and anxiety disorders. What else?
And the other thing is you cover the business side of things. Like you literally have everything covered. And then
I always describe my course as sort of like a living, breathing organism. When I find that my students don't have a comprehensive understanding of something, like I get in there and I teach it. So the course is like kind of ever growing as I see the need for new education, like the mindset piece. That's something that I realized more recently. A lot of my graduates in my program were struggling with just like even believing that they were capable of being a good sleep consultant or having a successful business. So I brought a mindset coach in to do a training on like how to get your brain in the right place, right? And so like stuff like that. The course, we also recently I have a PA in my program who is really into research. She researches, she's doing her own like studies on sleep training and all the good stuff. And so I had her come in and do a training on like how to interpret evidence and how to understand studies. And she created for us sort of like a cheat sheet of like all the sleep training, studies that are out there and like how to interpret them and how to understand what they say and why this study is flawed and why this study is actually a really good study. And it's amazing, right? And so like that was beyond my own scope because I'm not a scientist and I'm not a professional researcher, but like she is.
Yeah.
And so I had her do this for me and it's amazing. And so like, the course is constantly getting better as new people come into the program and different questions get asked and different things come up. It's like, okay, how can we address this? How can we make sure that we are the experts and we're the best in the field and we are best prepared to best support our clients globally.
Right. That's so good. And then once you join, you have lifetime access to all the modules.
Yeah. So right. Like, my students who enrolled like 3 years ago have access to these new trainings. Like they took the course years ago and it's, it's sort of like continuing education for life. Yeah.
I love it. So Megan wants to know how long it typically takes someone to get certified.
Yeah, this is the $1 million question. It's because it's self-paced and it's a combination of reading and video content. I can't answer like how many hours the course is. What I've noticed is that there seems to be a sweet spot where when someone turns in their final assignment at the like 4 to 6 week mark, I feel like they've taken enough time to not rush through it, but also like not drag to their feet, and they seem to like do a really good job. So I like to say 4 to 6 weeks. That being said, I've had people get through it in like 9 days. And then I've had people who bought my course 3 years ago who still haven't finished, right? Like there's a huge range of normal.
Yeah. But I mean, 6 weeks to 2 months is probably.
I always say like 4 to 6 weeks. Maybe it's 4 to 8 weeks, somewhere in there, 6 weeks-ish.
Love it. All right. I don't want to take up too much more of Jayne's time. So pop any questions here in the comments. I just put, while people are typing their questions, I just put the link to the course and a coupon code, Darcy 250, so you can save $250.
Oh, perfect. You already put that in there?
I did.
Okay. So for those listening, we're going to do $250 off the price of the course. It's going to be valid through the end of the day, Friday. And this code will work on the pay in full option or any payment plan. We offer payment plans where you can pay over the course of 2 months, 3 months, 4 months, 6 months, 8 months, something like that. And the $250 off will work on all of those options. If you enroll on a payment plan, your $250 will come off your first monthly payment, and then all of the other payments are whatever you agree to when you sign up.
Great. Janelle wants to know if you receive a certificate of completion.
You do. It's funny. The only people who care about that in my world are the doulas, because they like to like have it so that they can take it on their interviews, or nannies like to have it. To be completely honest, sometimes I get lazy about making them. So if you're one of the people that actually wants a certificate, then at the end, you just let me know. I will make you one. I'll email it to you. What is going to happen automatically when you pass the course is you're going to get emailed like a badge, sort of like a JPEG sticker for your website or for social media that says that you're a certified sleep consultant. But yes, you will also get a certificate of completion if you would like.
Awesome. All right. Okay. Love all this information. Maybe I missed it, but what sets your course apart from other courses being offered?
Yeah, so I would say it's 2 things. One, it's our community. I think that there's no other program on the market that has the community that we have. And that's something that I can't really, like, me telling you that, you're not going to believe me, but like, if you were to ask any of my 400 plus people that are enrolled in my program, they would tell you that literally it feels like a family. People have become legitimate friends. We're all in there supporting one another. It truly is a community like none other. The other major sort of differentiating factor is our emphasis on business building and entrepreneurship. I don't think other sleep consultant certification courses are teaching you how to find clients. They're not teaching sales. They're not teaching marketing. They're not teaching business growth strategy or mindset work. We're literally teaching you how to be successful entrepreneurs. And I don't think that that's going on elsewhere.
Yeah. And like I said, I have just had so many of my coaching clients rave about the program. And the other thing is today, I don't know if you saw it, but I posted about in my doula marketing group about, do you think, I can't remember how I worded it, but I was like, do you think
that sleep consulting only do cry it out? Yeah. And so many people said yes.
I know. And so I started to do a bunch of research, and I've been getting DMs all day of people, saying, oh, the only sleep consultants I knew, or offer these harsh. So I feel like I know you and your program.
Well, I also think that we need to just change the dialogue around all of it, because even this, I think that people who say that sometimes don't even really understand what sleep training looks like. I'm going to tell you, this is one of my favorite stories about sleep training. I was working with a 14-month-old, was being nursed all night long, ending up in parents' bed. Mom was super anxious about sleep training, wanted to take a really gentle parent-present approach. We tried that for a few nights. Literally, it was a disaster, screaming, crying, hysterics all night long. And this is with mom just rubbing her back and patting her and providing all sorts of comfort and support. And it was hours and hours of endless screaming and crying. And so I convinced her to do a bedtime routine, put the 14-month-old down in her crib, calm, relaxed, awake, and just step out for 10 or 15 minutes. Literally within 12 minutes, she had stopped her crazy crying and was trying to fall asleep. And she was asleep within less than 20 minutes and slept through the night every night since. Yeah. Okay. And that was cry it out. Okay. And that's actually what cry it out looks like a lot of the time. A lot of the time parents are getting in the way of their children when their children are really just saying I just wish I was asleep. Give me some space. Right. That's what that little girl was saying. And I think that there's so much negativity, and there's so much mean mommy stuff on the internet, and so much mom shaming, and so much nasty talk amongst professionals and parents that is making us feel really guilty about just giving our children an opportunity to try something new without us physically being there helping them. I equate it to my 9-year-old sometimes cries when his math homework is too hard. And if I were to just continue to do his math homework for him, then he never learns how to do his math homework, right? So giving that little 14-month-old 15 minutes of space was the best thing that anybody could have done for her. And that wasn't abandoning her. It wasn't traumatic. It wasn't traumatizing. Was it hard on mom's heart? Absolutely. But it was okay.
Was that mom grateful to you in the morning?
I literally changed her life. Yeah. I literally changed her. I saved her life. She was on the brink. Right. And I like to tell those cry it out stories, because those are really common, and it's okay if you don't want to do that. It's okay if you don't want to coach parents through that, but it's not this horrible, terrible thing that everybody thinks it is either.
And also, you weren't forcing her to do that. You weren't saying the only way. You talked her through it. You educated her. I think that's what I heard from so many people, that sleep consultants were pushy and had agendas, and that is not the way you set your.
I just convinced her. I challenged her to just listen for a moment, because one of my favorite CPSM grads, she so famously said, and I quote her all the time, that sleep training is never tuning out. It's always tuning in. And so even when you leave the room and you give your baby or your toddler a little bit of space, we're always listening, we're always watching. And there's a lot of different sounds during sleep training. And not all of them are, I'm being sliced in half. Like a lot of them are just like, I wish I was asleep and I'm not yet. Right. Yeah. And when you hear those noises, I think it's really important for parents to like sit on their hands the way that like when a child's struggling to zipper up their coat and we're just like, oh, let me just do it for you.
Yeah.
Like, you know, it's really important for us to like sit on our hands and let our children try something, even if they're frustrated during it. Right. Yeah. And that's not like torture or trauma. It's just like, it's hard, right? Nobody's going to say it's not hard, but it's okay.
And, you know, we kind of talked about this before we went live, like what was more stressful to that 14-month-old baby, the full night of crying with the mom rubbing the back or the 15 minutes? Like,
exactly. Right. And like, there's, you know, there's all this worry about like the stress of sleep training, but actually the stress of prolonged sleep deprivation is so much worse. Yes. So much worse. I always tell parents, like, feel how tired you are. And like your baby who requires like pretty much double the amount of sleep that you require is getting the same or less sleep as you, right? Like that's terrible. That's terrible for their health. It's terrible for their mental well-being, their emotional it's bad news when babies are tired. They deserve a full night of sleep.
And so do parents.
Last
night had a horrible night of sleep. And all day today, I was like, you know, I was driving around running errands and stuff. And I was like, what is my problem? Like at one point I was like, I think I'm going to cry. And I'm like, I don't know what I'm going to cry about. I'm like, why do I feel sad? And I was like, this feels familiar. And I was like, because I didn't sleep. And this is how I felt when I had little kids and I wasn't sleeping through the night. Like it is not good for your mental health. So
no,
this is why I'm so passionate about helping, you know, I think as doulas, we can really play a critical role in helping families get more sleep. Even, I mean, I've had a few doulas that I know who've gone through your training and they didn't really like open up a sleep consulting business. They just use the information with their doula clients. That's another whole option as well. I think this is really good education that we need to
makes you a better, I think it just makes you a better doula.
Yes.
And if you choose to support families in new ways, I think that's a bonus. But even if you changed nothing about your business other than maybe raising your rates because you're now better at your job, you know, there are a lot of ways to just benefit from this type of education, even if you don't go and support families virtually, even if you don't, you know, start a sleep consulting side business, none of that. Even if you do none of that, you still, I think, end up being better at your job. You have an easier time booking new clients and you walk into these situations with more confidence. And when you have more confidence, I think that really is what sets you apart and helps you to grow.
And the last thing I'll say is that I, you know, talk all the time about don't take more trainings for the sake of taking more trainings or because you have imposter syndrome. Like, I put that all to the side for this because I think you can raise your rates. You can, you know, earn more money in between doula clients and you can, you know, this is just, sleep is such an important thing in the lives of family, the whole
all of us. Yeah.
I just am so passionate about it. So I put the link to your course, the Darcy 250 coupon code. Tell us about your free Facebook group and your podcast.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, we almost forgot to talk about that. So if you would like to learn more about becoming a sleep consultant, two best resources are our free Facebook group, which is called, I think it's called Become a Sleep Consultant. Okay. But you can search Become or Becoming a Sleep Consultant, and maybe Darcy, you can link it below. And then we also have a podcast called Becoming a Sleep Consultant. This is my new total passion project. Every single Tuesday, we release a new episode and I interview graduates from my program where they share their stories of getting their businesses off the ground, or how actually today is Tuesday, right? Today we released an episode all about adding sleep consulting to your doula business. So quite fitting if you want to download the most recent episode. I've had interviews with mindset coaches and with all sorts of brilliant people to talk about business building and entrepreneurship through the lens of sleep consulting. And It's really inspiring and uplifting. And even if you're not interested in becoming a sleep consultant, even just for your doula business, I think there's a lot to be learned from the personal stories shared on this show.
It's a really great podcast. I love it.
I love it. It's my favorite thing to do. I'm just so enjoying it.
That's awesome. And well, you do a great job.
Thank you.
So thank you, Jayne. I don't want to take up any more of your time. But I also just want to shout out that we were going to do this at 8 and you were like, I need to push it till 8:15 because now my daughter can tell time and she goes to bed at 8. And then we got on and you're like, my son's over here. He's putting himself to bed tonight. Like the sleep hygiene in your household is just fantastic.
Yeah, my husband is in Europe right now for work, so I'm solo parenting, and yeah, I had to get my 6-year-old to bed, and my 9-year-old, he put himself to bed. He was over like right there, and he looked at me, and I was like, you know, and that was it. He went to bed. Yeah,
I love it. So that is fantastic. So thank you, Jayne. It's great to talk to you as always. People can join your free Facebook group and ask you questions in there, about joining, or ask me. I'll find a way to answer your questions, but can't say enough good things about you and your certification and your podcast and everything. So thank you for sharing with my doulas, and you're in my Facebook group too, so people can connect with you in there, the doula marketing group as well. So thank you, Jayne.
Absolutely. Thank you. Good night.
Have a great night. Bye.